welcome back to Silver Edition. I am Sarah Vandervoort, and today we are just going to get right started with Chief Brian Chaney. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
So glad to hear it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're happy to have you. We'll just start right off the bat. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe personal background that you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm into my rookie year here as the police chief for the city of Monona, Brian Chaney Austin. So it's a pleasure to be here. I actually needed a guide to actually walk back here because I'm very, very new, and this is probably the third time I've been in the building. So it's such a pleasure to be the police chief here. A little bit about my background: born and raised in Chicago. Don't necessarily hold that against me because I'm a Packers fan and I'm a Brewers fan, even though I grew up in Wrigleyville. So Cubs are near and dear to my heart, but I'm a true traitor in the sense that I love everything Wisconsin. So I went to school, obviously, in the Chicagoland area. Got my undergraduate degree in criminal justice, Spanish and theater, actually, from Illinois State University. And at the time, I met, when I was 18 years old, I attended a job fair and I met who would eventually go on to be a Madison police chief, Mike Koval, who introduced me to the glorious wonders of the Madison-Dane County area. And I got hooked. And so at 22 years old, I applied to the Madison Police Department and spent 20 years as a Madison officer. Found this opportunity here after Chief Wally Estrenga retired after 16 or so years at Monona Police. And here I am, and having a blast.
Awesome. Well, we are happy to have you in the city. It sounds wonderful. When did you decide that you wanted to become a police officer?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I get that a lot because I didn't always have this big idea of wanting to become a police officer or a cop. We'll just say cop, right? We refer to ourselves as cops too. It's okay. Growing up in the city of Chicago as a kid who bounced around from neighborhood to neighborhood visiting friends, I didn't have the best experiences with police officers, and it's nothing honest. I was a good kid, so it was nothing for what I was doing. I wasn't involved in any mischief or any delinquent behavior. But I think I was caught up in sort of the system there and what was likely at the time a very bad habit of police officers stopping people who looked out of place or, maybe I fit the profile too many times. I don't know, but I had a lot of contacts as a kid. And so early on, I was sort of sensitized or desensitized, I should say, to routinely being stopped by police for doing nothing wrong. And it wasn't until I had a really wonderful and positive encounter with a Chicago police officer who stopped me. And you should have seen my reaction, the normal, hands out of your pockets, just get ready for the pat down. And the officer, whose name I wish I could remember to this day, because I give him a lot of credit, stopped and said, "Wait, kid, what are you doing?" I'm stopping just to say hi and introduce myself. He introduced himself by his first name, said, "Hey, I'd seen you a couple times in the area because I rode my bike around a lot. I wanted to make sure that you were safe, you knew where you were going, and if you need anything, you got to know you can trust the police department. We're here to help you." That positive interaction changed my outlook altogether. And so I had a couple options. I knew I wanted to get in public service. Top Gun was the thing of the day back in sort of dating myself, the original Top Gun. I hear there's a new one coming out, which I'm excited for. And so I really wanted to become a fighter pilot, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't have the grades like some of you wonderful people do to get into one of the academies. And so I needed to come up with option B. And option B was what I consider one of the best jobs in the world. It's as a police officer. And so that's my long story about how I got into this job and why I wanted to do it.
Super interesting, yeah, for sure. As your job of being the chief police of Monona, what does your job entail? Like, what's your daily, everyday life kind of look like when you're at work?
Yeah, it's funny because one of the reasons I really got into this job is because I couldn't consider myself or didn't consider myself as a 9-to-5 sitting in a cubicle or office. No offense to those who really enjoy that type of environment. Just wasn't me. I was such an active person, wanted to be out, life engaging. You will find that I have no problem talking to people. But I used to be a really shy kid. Funny story. And so what's the irony about that now is that I find myself being in an administrative role where I am in an office or doing various meetings or on the phone or glued to email, right? Because that's how we communicate now. But I'm in the administrator of a department, a city department, so I'm responsible for all the operations, the budget, forecasting, projecting, and helping. I play a significant role, the police department does, but we're only one factor of the larger piece that is public safety in our community.
Yeah.
A key element of that are our stakeholders, which are all of you, our community members, and our other city agency and intergovernmental agency partners that all work together. So a lot of my job is, of course, the day-to-day functionality of the PD, making sure that we have the resources we need to fulfill our mission and keeping everyone safe here, and advocating for things I think will help improve the safety here in Monona.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. What are some of the programs or changes that you have implemented at Monona Police Department since taking on the role as chief?
Yeah, one of the things, I'm a very enthusiastic person,
I can
it's
tell.
so I've been told. One of the challenges I have is just slowing the heck down, right? I've 20 plus years of sort of thinking about the ideal police department, the ideal, what I would want to bring if I had my own opportunity to be chief, and here I am, right? But I walked into a situation where there was plenty of opportunity for growth and development, and a community that was really yearning for more interaction with its police department. And so I dove head first. And so now, again, my challenge is making sure I don't outrun the pace, so to speak. One of the things that I did, there was an opportunity early on, was looking at recruitment. The police department had 2 vacancies when I arrived on scene. And I found that to be a tremendous opportunity to help provide a little bit more diversity to our police department. But I knew that it was going to require change. And I knew that we were going to have to change status quo. What I mean by that is that traditionally, members of the police department, prior to being employed with the police department, had either put themselves through the police academy, which is a 720-hour long, it's a semester-long program at a local community college. And so that's their own out-of-pocket expense, their own time. So that's option one. Or the other option is that they were already employed as a police officer. I think that we currently have a wonderful team of officers who took those routes. But what that does is that it limits your applicant pool. I think that agencies who are successful at being a diverse workforce look beyond that. And so one of the things that our Monona Council approved and the Police and Fire Commission here at Monona approved is allowing the city to sponsor somebody who doesn't have the certification. So we did just that. The first time in the history of the city and this police department, we've opened up the doors to folks who weren't already police officers, who didn't have the certification, and said, I want you, teacher, social worker, jiu-jitsu instructor, firefighter, I want you to do this job. If you have the proper character and the proper skills and everything that you demonstrate as being somebody who this community wants to serve in that profession, we will train you how to do this job, the technical aspects of this job. Yeah. So we have 2 wonderful young women who are part of our police department now. One is in training and one graduated, is in field training. And I should say, with a little bit of bragging, she graduated as class president from her academy class. So really proud accomplishment for the city. So recruitment is something that I really did focus on and will continue to focus on as well. A lot of internal changes, just how we communicate internally, getting proper input and feedback from our very talented employees who are the backbone of this police department. But also, giving a lot of focus to those outside of the police department, making sure that we work well with our other agency partners, be it in public safety or otherwise, but also the community at large. Again, one of the things I heard early on and identified as a key need for improvement is the relationship building between the police department and the community. There are some folks who, I'll be blunt here, that said, Chief, you're walking into a perfect system with no problems and no issues. And I challenged that a little bit for some folks who say that, because in the spirit of continuous improvement, nothing's ever perfect, nothing's ever going to be just right. And there are, of course, folks who've come to me and said, hey, things have been pretty crummy here for some time. Here's my experiences, and here's why. I respect both. But I think, especially, as an openly gay man and a person of color, I think I need to come to the equation with the experiences I've had and say, I wasn't always heard when I wanted to speak up on some of these issues. I think it's important for me to advocate for those voices who might be in the minority,
for sure,
and give weight to their experiences. And so we have to prioritize community engagement. We have to prioritize building on those relationships to make sure, hey, if you don't feel safe, walking through town, driving through town, going to school at the local schools, we're not doing our job. You should feel safe. Now, it takes more than just the police department, to make a safe community. That's for sure. But we need to work on doing what we can to make sure that the engagement piece is there. To make sure folks are comfortable with their police department. And what I've done is I've required community engagement from every staff member of the police department. So from officers to dispatchers, whomever gets paid, whoever's paycheck says the City of Monona, I should say, police department. Still getting used to that. City of Monona Police Department, they're going to be tasked with engaging in one community engagement activity per quarter. So 4 times a year at a minimum. That's my minimum expectation and standard. My hope, and what I've seen so far, is that that's going to explode, right? Mm-hmm. Where people are going to feel, wow, this is a great opportunity to really learn about people, to share my experiences, as either dispatcher or officers. And to sort of humanize the badge a little bit. I think that that's important so people realize how challenging of a job these officers and dispatchers have. It's not easy at all. But it's also an opportunity for our community members, or the staff members, I should say, to learn about some of the needs of our community and why certain persons, very valid feelings, but why they feel a certain way when interacting with police or when placing that call to dispatch. And so that's important. Community outreach with respect to getting advice from a community. So I've created a group called the Chiefs Advisory Group.
Okay.
Roundtable group, I should say. And so that is an opportunity for specific members of the community who have identified sort of a need for change and voiced concerns to come and interact with me in a shared experience way that isn't necessarily going to be on community media, that isn't going to be blasted on YouTube, because let's face it, not everybody's comfortable with that.
Exactly, for sure.
So it provides an opportunity for me to hear and receive direct feedback from folks, but also, I'm a new chief in a new environment. I have some wild ideas that might not be appropriate for Monona, and it's a great opportunity for me to bounce things off of folks like that as well. So. I have a whole laundry list of things that I think that we've done a really good job of accomplishing here. But my job's easy because we have a wonderful crew here. And I'm coming from an agency that is, I think, well respected internationally. Madison is well known. But there's an advantage here in that we are such a small group of officers and dispatchers who really know the ins and outs of this community, who really yearn for improvement and wanting to do the best job that they can do. And so I walked in with some advantages as well. So many things that are left on the table. Again, I'm trying to slow down my rate of change, but I think that we've seen some positive changes at the police department and in this community, and hope to continue to do that moving forward. I will say, before I stop talking, I told you, I warned you about this. Warned you about this. I will say that, I'm in an environment, we all are sitting at the Monona Grove High School right now, and I don't know if that was secret or not, but I just revealed it.
Now we know.
Okay, right. Where, we sort of restructured the role of the school resource officer here. We have a wonderful school resource officer who I can tell you in personal conversations and talking about work, who is really dedicated to making sure that everyone here is safe. And, there's some growing pains with any role. I think that our SRO has done an incredible job of trying to really be humble and accept feedback and understand that there are calls for change and there's adjustments that need to be made. And I will continue to support the role of an SRO in the school, and I will argue any day of the week about its benefits and keeping everyone safe. So, and that's another element that I wanted to hint on, that we've changed and that I think we've seen benefit of.
Yeah, for sure. Super cool to see all the ambition that you have reflecting onto the community, and just not even just only in the police department, but just in the community in general. So yeah, super interesting. Are there any parts of your job that you really, really like, and any that you just really cannot stand at all?
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's confession time, huh? You know, I love talking. So I love engaging. I love having conversations with people, and I've met, you know, since day one, so many wonderful people. And you know, there's some conversations that you have with folks that you're kind of shifting in the table, right? Just because ideologically, you know, you're just night and day. Mm-hmm. However, I serve everyone here, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to make sure I approach my engagement with that respect. And so I really enjoy this. I enjoy getting out, talking. I enjoy doing interviews, which is so funny because, as I mentioned before, I was such a shy kid. You should hear my family members and my mom now, and they remind me of how shy I was and how this is wild for them that I would do anything like this, because I was such a quiet kid. But you know, watching sort of the staff develop, watching their skill sets grow, watching how they adjust to the new guy, right, and the new officers that are coming in, and embracing that with open arms. I enjoy the support that the community provides. You know, even if some of the criticism, although valid, is hard to hear and feel and experience sometimes, I do appreciate that there is that dialogue and that there's that cooperation. We have a wonderful council here, very supportive council, very supportive public safety committee who I staff, and so that is something I very much appreciate. Now some of the negatives, right?
Yes.
I don't have a laundry list of negatives. I haven't been here that much, but you know, this is a very challenging job, and not only being in law enforcement in and of itself is very challenging. I think sometimes it is a thankless job. You're not in it for the atta girl, atta boys all the time, but it is sort of sometimes a lonely existence, especially when you're sitting at the top of a police department. There's really you know, nobody to consult in-house. So fortunately for me and Dane County in general, we do have a good working collaboration with other municipalities, with other police departments. And so the Dane County Chiefs Association and some of our colleagues at neighboring agencies, McFarland, Verona, Middleton, Fitchburg, and others, Sun Prairie, have been very supportive in helping the new guy adapt to his new role. So
yeah, for sure.
I can't end with a negative. I wanted to throw that positive in there too.
Well, we're glad there's positives over the negatives.
Yeah.
For sure. As your job as police chief, do you ever have any moments where you do go out on patrol, or is it mostly just kind of like more behind the scenes, going out and doing stuff in the community?
Yeah, well, some of your thanks. That's a really good question, and it goes to my whole challenge of being locked up in an office for 12 hours a day. I just can't do it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So what's funny is that I think I took my staff by surprise when I switched sort of patrol cars. So my predecessor used to drive a very discreet car, didn't have a computer in it, didn't have a printer, you know, in which we write tickets and all that, didn't have a radar. And you hired, this community hired a former traffic captain at the Madison Police Department. So I'm no state trooper, but you know, I do appreciate, you know, the importance of traffic safety. And so I actually switched squads so that I now have an SUV that has a working computer and working. So some of your classmates have met me before.
They might know you.
They,
you never
I think
know.
they know me before. They may have received a piece of paper with my name on it, and maybe a warning or maybe some fine amount that is reminding them to slow down. But I do get out, and I think that's a bit of an adjustment from my staff. Is that you know, I'm relatively young, and I do appreciate some of the fun of the job. Understand that I don't have that role anymore, but I'm still a police officer. Yeah. So I do like to get out and about.
Super cool. Yeah, for sure. Are there any certain circumstances when you would have to go out and then be on like the actual scene of a call or a crime or something like that?
Yeah, it's really case dependent. I think one of the most recent examples is that we had a private school in town that recently had the unfortunate event of a bomb scare, and so a pretty high profile event like that, where you have to evacuate an entire building and school children and staff. And then you have media coming. That is my job. I need to represent, what our response to that call is, be available to do media interviews, help with any coordination that needs to take place. But what I'll tell you is that we have a very capable, professional, skilled workforce at the police department who don't need any hand-holding by their new chief. They know exactly what they're doing. I provide direction when needed. In essence, I'll give you a mission and I'll tell you to go.
Yeah.
I trust your skills and capabilities and experience, and if we teeter off sort of what my mission is, I will re-guide and redirect, but at the end of the day, I don't micromanage, I don't guide every single action step, but I am there to be a visible department head and leader of this the police department, and so that's the role that I fill in when I'm out and about.
Yeah, cool. As we know, Canine Maya has officially retired since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the police department is able to pursue a canine replacement, or if there's a different handler, or what kind of the situation would be moving on from that?
Yeah, so every time somebody says Canine Maya retires, I know it's such a, and
sad
even
moment.
though I know, even though I had a limited time with Maya and her handler. Her handler still, he did an interview with Sylvia. I do find it challenging to have conversations about, because she's so well loved. And mind you, well known and respected in sort of the canine handler circles in law enforcement in the area. I mean, that duo had a lot of successes in its time. One of the things that I've changed, speaking of change, was that we transitioned from a single-purpose dog, which Maya was considered, to a dual-purpose patrol dog. What that allows the ability is for us to have more tools on our belt, so to speak, in helping to make sure our community is safe. A dual-purpose dog is what I think most people would traditionally think of as a police dog. A dog who's able to go out and do tracking, can help with a building search or building clears, and do so safely while rendering a safe resolution to the event, and protect the officers when they're doing their job, especially the handler while they're doing their job. So we've transitioned in that, and because of that, we have a new canine handler who I will convince to be on this show one day.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
He'll do it. Remember, I'm chief. So I think that our new officer Hoffman, is going to do and is already doing a fabulous job. So it required an acquisition of the dog, approval of our council and getting the support there, an acquisition of our dog, which I can tell you the whole program would not exist were it not for donations.
Yeah.
None of it is being funded through the tax levy, for example, or our operating budget. And I will continue to ask folks to support our canine program and other programs throughout the county, because they are extremely beneficial and a useful tool that help keep everyone safe. Officer Hoffman is doing a wonderful job with Jocko, our new canine. He's a Belgian Malinois. And if any of you've seen the new movie Dog with Channing Tatum
there
or whatever,
we go.
That's a Belgian Malinois, because most people are like, "What's a Belgian what?"
Just check out the movie and you'll know.
Yeah, just check out the movie. But I will caution you that these dogs are built for one or two things, and they have an on or off switch, and there's nothing in between. They're
Very
a working dog. Very much focused, very high energy. So just because the dog is cute and lovable and there was a great storyline in the movie, don't necessarily go out and get the dog unless you're prepared.
Doing their job, oh yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's a great program that's up and running. The dog was named by the school kids at Winnequa School who took a vote.
Oh wow, that's super cool.
So we provided them an opportunity to choose the name of our dog, and so Winnequa kids chose the name, and he's already out and about, fully trained, fully certified, and is actually working right now today.
Wow, awesome. It's super cool to see those changes. Obviously, moving on from such an amazing dog and then getting another one is always going to be awesome to see those changes happen. So, If someone were thinking about being in law enforcement, whether starting a new career or going into it from a past career, does Monona Police Department right now have like a ride-along program? If so, where could people find more information to sign up or get, more facts about how that will work?
That's great, and as a former recruiter, and I will always be a recruiter, like I said, this is the best job in the world, although journalism's pretty good. Obviously if bias, this is a great job, and so I'd encourage anybody with interest to reach out, ask questions. Our website is a great place to start in looking for information about the police department. Hopefully we'll do more community open house engagement opportunities where we will have members of the public come to us or vice versa. We can come to you and present on what it's like to be a police officer and what it takes. But we're really enthusiastic about the opportunities to continue those conversations, to have rear ends in car seats so that we can have those conversations to talk about the ins and outs, the good and bad about this job, the challenges that exist, but also the rewarding experience of being a dispatcher, being a police officer. So we are continually looking for qualified candidates. Again, you don't necessarily have to be the criminal justice guy or girl. You certainly don't need to go through the training necessarily. Look for opportunities where we post on our website, we post on social media. Some of you may still be on Facebook. I heard that's a dying thing with a certain demographic, but we are on social media, Twitter, et cetera, and we advertise as much as we can about the prospects of a new job at the police department when one becomes available. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Awesome, yeah. I'm sure online and all those kind of different places are good resources for that. So as we start to wrap everything up today, do we have anything that you would like to add to our conversation or any last remarks for viewers at home, anything like that?
Again, it's been, so I started last June. I think I'm beyond my honeymoon phase, but it has been a joy and a thrill of my personal and professional life being in this role. I love interacting with folks and meeting new folks, but I want to end by saying we do have sort of an open door policy, and so if there's any feedback you would like to provide, please go to our website, find our contact information, send an email, or make an appointment to stop by, and then offer opportunity for me to come to you or our staff to come to you too. And I look forward to future interviews.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
And hope to be a regular on the show.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. I think that's all we've got for today. We are super grateful to have Brian here today. If you guys have any questions about Monona Police Department, anything like that, this is your guy, or just go to their website, check out social media. But yeah, that should be about it. Thank you so much for watching Silver Edition.